should look very similar to the one that was presented a few months ago with the Ag Society. What we're looking at doing is we're looking at entering into a lease with the mutual aid board to go through and to lease out the current tower that is down in the McCool area for the use of the mutual aid board. So a while back, the Sheriff's Department went on to the state radio system, which is the way that a lot of the law enforcement is going. The police department's gone on the state radio system. State Patrol's on the state radio system and works on the interoperability for the law enforcement agencies. So we are no longer utilizing the tower down there in McCool, but it is being utilized by the fire departments and the mutual aid. It's also being utilized for public safety in a couple different aspects, but our equipment is no longer being utilized on that tower. That being said, York County is still currently paying for the electricity, the maintenance of the generators down there and other equipment. So the purpose of this lease would be turning or giving the mutual aid board the ability to go through and to continue to do the maintenance. They would take over the power. They would take over the insurance on the tower, those types of things for the purpose of public safety. The tower still needs to be utilized for that public safety purpose, but it's just no longer used specifically by York County. So that's the purpose of the lease that's in front of you. I'd entertain any questions that you guys might have.
So York County, as we look up on our SAM system, York County owns that little piece of property. Yep. We own, I assume, the tower.
We do.
And I assume that the taxpayers at one point in time, either through a grant process or something, paid for the tower. Do you have any idea?
Federal grant that paid
federal
for
grant.
the tower and the building and the generator and the development of the whole site.
Okay.
That was under the previous sheriff, filed for it, which allowed for, because of the FCC relicensing spectrum, the current 800 megahertz system that was being used was going away, and the sheriff and the York Police Department had to move off of the 800 megahertz system that was currently used, so they had to develop and install their own system. The sheriff applied for a grant, got a grant to build the tower. They had installation at the McCool Tower, which was built via the grant, and then also an installation by a tower that's at Thayer, Nebraska. And the Thayer Tower was built by 911 funds with an agreement between the city of York and the county commissioners. And so the mutual aid maintains and operates the Thayer Tower site with an agreement with the McCool Rural Fire District that all expenses associated with that are paid for by the mutual aid.
Okay. And that one just got rebuilt?
Yeah.
Because it got hit by an aerial accident just a few years ago.
Crash, yes.
So this one here, essentially, we don't need it. We don't foresee needing it in the near future. The only part about this that I know that you mimic somewhat what we did to the Ag Society about the replacement, but I don't know that I necessarily care for that's written in here that it looks to me like it's worded that if we wanted to end the lease for some reason or another and we couldn't get along, we may have to buy or build them a whole new tower somewhere, and I'm guessing that wouldn't be very cheap. And I don't mind the fact that it's in here, if grant funds paid for it, that there's no, there's really no reason for us to charge anybody for it, but I don't know that I necessarily like that wordage on this contract as compared to what, if we want to compare it to the Ag Society, I don't believe York County had anything to do with the buildings or anything like that up there. So I would like to look for some other wordage in there. In that respect. Now, if they invested in equipment and for some reason, we wanted the tower back, I don't know that we would need to keep the equipment. I don't know, but I would look for some guidance on that outside the fact that it looks like, unless I'm reading it wrong, that we would, if we didn't agree, we would have to replace this structure. So I don't know, Josh,
Yeah, I would go through and I would defer to the county attorney on essentially going through and looking at possibly rewriting this paragraph. That's something that we can definitely
Okay.
have done, and that wouldn't be an issue.
everybody else had an opportunity, obviously, to go through or read it too. Any thoughts or feelings?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem with what we're talking about, it's just
Right.
that one
Yep.
little piece.
Well, and while we're talking at that item, we're mutually spending $16,000 on that tower this month to install a new LED lighting system.
Okay,
And so maybe something in there that capital improvements, if the county decides to cancel the lease, there'd be reimbursement to the mutual aid for improvements to the site that can't be removed.
okay.
And long-term, I don't see this ever happening.
Right.
I don't either,
Yeah,
but I think it's good to spell
good
it out.
covered. Yeah, I think it's good that we cover it.
And one of the things that I would just point out in the lease, it says that specifically this lease is for the purpose of the public good and public safety of York County, Nebraska. So it's still being used for public safety, and we want to continue that.
Right.
But obviously, you're right, we need to spell out these terms and make sure that we get them correct.
Right.
The one, I'm not finding that I didn't highlight it in here, but, something about subleasing,
Yeah, that's up top.
I think it's gotta come to the board. What, I guess just help me to, what might that look like? Would there,
So one of the things that they may end up doing is there's times when there may be something where they can, without jeopardizing any public safety, they can go through and they can add a piece of equipment, or somebody may go through and reimburse the mutual aid board, which offsets the cost of the tower operation, benefit to the taxpayers. So that's what it would look like, and I know that they currently do have a couple of those.
At their John Deere GPS system is installed, and Perennial has a meter reading system installed at their tower. We charge a tower rent for that, and from that rent offsets the mutual aid. And the mutual aid is not a taxing authority. It's a combination of all the fire departments in York County plus Utica that we pay dues that are budgeted by the rural fire
Sure.
departments and the city of York Fire Department that help us fund, and those leasing funds help us offset the cost. It's been an expensive year for, last year we had to have the generator repaired there, and that was $6,000. Like I said, this tower light and some antenna work is going to be another, all said and done, about $16,000. And so it lessens the tax burden on the constituents of the county by leasing space on it, and allows us funds to maintain the radio systems. And we currently maintain 5 repeaters on the 2 different tower sites and the York Fire Station. We purchased communications equipment to go into the new 911 center to allow them access to some alternate frequencies we use. So by using that leasing funds, we've really offset the cost that would be borne by the taxpayers. And so an opportunity to do that at the McCool site would be a real plus for us.
Any other questions? Comments?
With the county attorney present, obviously, he may be able to explain that paragraph, or maybe we could discuss what you guys would like to see in that paragraph. Obviously, you want to remove a section of that for the rebuilding of a tower. What's any other adjustments that you'd like to see in the lease?
Well, I think we'd be fine with the fact that, you know, any upgrades, you know, stuff like that. I mean, within, you know, for instance, you're talking about lighting. So we get 10, 15 years down the road, and the lease, we want to terminate it for any reason. I mean, those lights are 10, 15 years old. They're probably not worth at that time what they paid for. So some kind of agreement that, hey, you know, we'll buy this out, you know, but I assume the fair market value would be, fair
Less
fair market
depreciation.
value of lights that they're 16 years old or 15 years old, not of today's, you know,
Right.
just wordage like that.
Then
I-
existing fair market value.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, the part that just really got my attention was that, you know, if they didn't like, you know, what we were doing, that it looked to me like the way it reads, that they would ask for us to build them a new tower somewhere. And I'm just thinking, that can't be cheap. You know, I mean, that's
That's
very,
$320,000.
there you go. So, and obviously it's not affecting me, but somewhere down the road, a commissioner might just be a little bit upset at what this board did, in that respect. So everybody, comments, seeing it wrong, seeing it right?
No, I think that some rewording of that paragraph is warranted.
And I see you've already signed it, so, but that would take, do you have to go back to your board to ask for
No,
permission to sign again?
we went to we had a meeting in early November, and the board has authorized me to act on behalf of the mutual aid for signing the agreement and any negotiations.
The one thing I just, I believe I'm reading this correctly. The mutual aid will hold the liability and structural, insurance.
Yeah.
And so that if something would happen, the
Right.
county would be held harmless.
And your current insurance expires on the site in,
So we're currently insured through the end of this fiscal.
which
Yeah.
would be
July 1st, or
July
June
1st.
30th.
June 1st.
June 30th.
June 30th, okay, because we're working on trying to get an insurance quote. And one of the issues is, and I'll bring it up here now, is, and maybe I'll submit a letter to the county attorney to look at. Currently, when we built the tower there, the county commissioners in the city of York said somebody had to own it. Well, the mutual aid's not a taxing authority, and so since it was in Waco's rural fire district, Waco raised their hand and said, we will own the tower. They insure the tower, and we pay them all expenses associated with insuring the tower. I approached the McCool Rural Board, and this is where it gets complicated. We're gonna talk to the county attorney. Apparently, since the mutual aid is not a taxing authority, we can't buy insurance on our own. So, and there, we may have to change the lease agreement to show, and McCool is reluctant to assume ownership of the tower because the first things that happened at the meeting, I'm reluctant to say this in an open meeting, they got money signs in their eyes thinking that they were gonna collect all the money if we lease space on the tower. And they weren't very happy when I told them, sure, as long as you want to take all the expenses with it associated with it. Waco has agreed to insure under their current insurance. Would be nice because we have both the towers under the same insurance. But the lease agreement may have to be with the Waco Rural Fire District versus York County Mutual Aid, so it's a taxing authority. So I'm going to talk to the county attorney. I'm going to show him the letter I got from the insurance company. And so this is a great opportunity between the next 2 weeks to maybe reword the contract. And Waco Rural Fire District is more than happy to assume the lease on this because we've had this agreement with them since 2001 on the third tower. We paid all the expenses. They just know that that's out there, that supposedly they own it, but it's never cost them a dime, and we continue that agreement.
Okay, so is this something like with ours then, that because we still own it, we still retain ownership of this, that we would be able to get insurance through NERMA and then recoup the cost from mutual?
We would have to contact.
I mean, we own it, we retain ownership, we're not giving that up, that we could continue to insure it.
Correct.
And that wordage could be put in the agreement to say that they reimburse us.
And
Yes.
and that's what Waco does, is they insure it for total tower is insured for $320,000. There's $290,000, I believe, for the tower, and another $45,000 for the building, is how the insurance is broke down. And our premium last year was $500, this year it's $1,100. Imagine that, insurance is going up, but, you know, if they can identify that out, since the county still owns it, it makes it just a lot cleaner that we just reimburse the county for the insurance cost on the tower as part of the agreement.
Right.
I would say that's something we should look into
Yeah.
and see where that's at, see what the cost of it is. Undoubtedly, it's itemized out of what that is going to be.
And one of the rubs is at Thayer, it's got $1,000 deductible. The county has a $10,000 deductible. And so when the near tornado went by Cool 2 years ago, it damaged an antenna. The cost of getting that antenna with tower crew and everything was like $8,000. And so that's a pretty substantial hit for the mutual aid. We're able to afford it. Just as long as we don't have tornadoes and hailstorms every year, we'll be okay. But to me, that would be the cleanest way if the county could see if their insurance carrier would allow that, or the board would allow that,
Okay.
the county continues insuring, and then the agreement says that the mutual aid will pay those costs associated with insuring the tower covered. That way, then the county would be protected, that knowing that it's covered under their liability and damage. And we can live with a $10,000 deductible.
Let's look into that, and then we'll postpone any action on this today as for adjustments that I think we need, and take this up at a future meeting, I don't know if it has to be done in 2 weeks, but, you know, if we can get it done, that's fine. If
Right.
not, we'll put it on the
Well,
first of the
and
year.
we budgeted for the point of being able to go through this next year, and we
Okay.
didn't want to spring this onto, obviously for public safety, we didn't want to spring it onto the mutual aid board, but it was time to start having the discussion, and so, yeah, we have a little bit of time to be able to
Okay.
work through this.
I have been approached by a carrier that wants to lease space on the tower. And they're excited, and so I'd like to see if possible that we could have this done by the 26th.
Okay. Yeah, and you were touching on just a little bit, Daniel, I think that's line 5.
Okay.
Did you see
Yep.
that in the first paragraph about it, the leasing may sublet the real estate with permission of leaseor? So that wordage is in there too. So
Okay.
if you were going to do that, according to this agreement, you'd have to get our permission to do that too, which, yeah, that's a lot of pieces in
Okay.
in 2 weeks. Okay. Any other discussion? I'd entertain a motion to postpone any action on this to a future meeting.
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes,
And Overman.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen.
thank you for providing that service to us. When you have that communication.
Then it's really important for the fire departments in the county to have that tower, so.
Okay,
This is white pads, is that right?
pertinent to the last thing on the agenda, I went ahead and added this on there. This has come up, you know, this was a topic that came up towards the end of August versus September around budget time. We talked about it just a little bit then. And I guess I wanted to get the board's kind of direction where we thought on this. It is obviously, as we heard in juvenile diversion, it's grant writing time and grants are being asked and so what is anybody's feelings toward what I will call discussion of adult diversion? Is this something that we want to entertain at this time? Same stance we took around budget time. What do we want to do? And to clarify also, this is York County. York County. To my knowledge, York County.
I guess it does, I mean, it comes back to, we were presented with it at budget time. At that time, we saw where our spend was, and so we had kind of said, we're gonna hold spending, and so at that time, we had said, not in this current budget year. Some circumstances have changed and some things have come up that have brought it up again at this point, and I guess what we have to decide is if we are willing to change our direction mid-course, or if we're gonna stay and wait and relook at it during a budget discussion.
And that's why I put it on here, just
Yeah.
for discuss.
Yep.
It's not on here to discuss an act. You know, obviously, we have one more meeting yet this year, and if, depending on how this discussion went, is what we would plan to do on the agenda item for the 26th. And, you know, to me, it seemed like if the board wanted to do something, you know, that January 1 is our half-year, you know, timeframe, it'd be a decent time to do it if there was one. But it would just be, as we talked, it would be implementing something new. There's costs associated with that. We can't go back, even though we can amend our budget, we can't go back and reallocate tax funds as far as we can't change the levy. The levy is what
Right.
the levy is. This would be funds that we currently have would have to be reallocated within the budget we have in front of us, at least the tax dollars. And, you know, for best guesstimation, we're looking at roughly $50,000 for that amount. So I have visited with not only the clerk's office, but the auditor and different things, and kind of did homework there a little bit. Obviously, we'd be adding payroll. We could transfer money to do this, or we could spend money out of inheritance, even though the state auditor said they didn't know why we would necessarily do it that way. Anything we transferred in, we can't transfer back out, so we'd have to clean up next budget year. So it just really, I mean, the financial side of it can be done, but then do we lead into, if we're gonna do this mid-year now, do we open ourselves up to, well, doing other stuff mid-year at another point in time? I think the people that presented this to us are very passionate about it. There's no doubt, and I don't question that passion whatsoever. It's just, do we share that same passion at this,
Right.
at these seats? So that's kind of why I wanted to put it out for everybody to give a little bit of input, and then, you know, if we chose, we would put it on the agenda the 26th.
It'd be nice if everything was nice and clean and just chop it off and be done with it. You know. The cleanest way is to just wait a fiscal year. At the same time, when you look at numbers that Gary's providing us, eventually, it does what it's supposed to do, it's gonna save us money. We spend another $10,000 for boards of prisoners to house them out, because we don't have room. And totally, the whole budget for that arena is $27,500. So with food and dental and all the other kind of things that go with it. So if we really can get in there with adults and make a difference in terms of their decision-making, their behavior, it should save us money. Unfortunately, it probably starts when a kid's 2 years old. And it gets, you talk about kicking the can down the road, this gets kicked down the road and down the road and down the road, so it's a challenge. So, yeah, I like the idea, I don't like the idea.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm stuck in that budget world. And I know some people don't like it, but it is what I focus on. And to me, you know, it's laid out how we should operate by statute and everything. And we had to go to the postcard meeting, and people addressed, you know, different things for us. And yes, can we save them money? It's a good possibility we can with the proper plan. And it sounds like the proper plan is being worked on by the county attorney's office. But I would probably lean personally towards the fact that I would really like to, as you put it, Woody, a clean start for the budget year is what I would like to see. And of course, our budget year is July 1. It isn't necessarily when we pass it. And
Right,
and
yep.
we could do some, but that's 6 months away. We could do some changing and accepting at that point in time, rather than waiting for the budget year. But then we would still have to say, yes, we are going to fund this. We are going to work this into our budget for 24,
Right.
25.
Correct.
But, you know, personally, I would probably say that's the way I would like to see it, is wait till then. And then just kind of put this to rest for the time being in our court. That doesn't put it to rest in their court, because I think they would still have to work at it and get everything going. This, we would also have to take into account that, okay, we know we would start this up without any grant money. You know,
Right.
because the grant money
Would be
is
the-
being asked for. And that would be the responsibility of us taking going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you in, you know, at the budget time, yeah, we're a few meetings removed from the budget time. But at that time, our intent was to try and hold our spending this year. We had just come off of the postcard meeting. We had individuals sitting in front of us saying, curb your spending, slow it down. And so, you know, that stays in the back of my mind. Now, you know, mid-year, we hope to see savings, but we are at that point where if we were to move forward with this, we are increasing the spending, we're increasing the amount of money that we're expending, and all of that money that we expend is taxpayer money, wherever it comes from. And so I guess I would agree that it probably would be smoother and more responsible to wait till budget time.
It's a tough decision in my mind. I think I have to believe Gary, but I think stay with the budget at this point.
I don't see it a lot different than adding a guidance counselor at elementary school, because you're trying to be proactive. Let's being here, let's give kids skills to understand why you're mad, sad, glad, hurt, afraid, or ashamed. What are you gonna do with that? And then working accordingly. And so this does the same thing for adults. I would really expect, and my master, I guess, back up a little more, my master's thesis was on the recidivism through these kind of programs. So I know they work, or they did a million years ago when I wrote that. So, but I agree, the message from the pink card hearing was, don't spend any more money. And be cognizant of where we are. It's just that delay of the turnaround before you reap the benefit of the program. And change takes time.
Right.
Well, and I think that this board, as you put it there, Stan, too, that I don't think anybody's not believing, because we're standing behind, you know, the juvenile diversion. It's the timing is more for me than it is anything. And, you know, I think that it's undoubtedly probably gonna be part of York County in the future. And it's not to say it couldn't be right now. It takes 3 of 5 to say, yes, they want it right now. I just don't, I would just like to wait.
I hate to disappoint Gary and his, like, in their thinking, because I think they believe in it so passionately, like you said earlier. But I don't want to break the budget now, personally.
Jack, any?
I have to go along with the starting a fresh budget.
Okay. Okay, well, any other comments towards this?
I really don't like it, but that's the way that I feel.
Woody?
And I appreciate the effort to bring this forward, because you don't just do something overnight, you know, it does take prep time, it takes time. And maybe it's having some more sessions here to just start talking and sharing. These are the facts, this is what's gonna happen. If we did this, it saves this. If we do this, it makes this difference. So that public can get out there and get behind it and take a little ownership for why are we doing an adult diversion program? And so educating the public so they can have buy-in, I think is gonna be crucial for any of the programs that we put in place here. But this would be one of those that we should be able to show there's evidence out there that being proactive with adult behavior can make a difference. There's a few topics for now.
Any other comments?
Well,
Go ahead.
could some of that be put in this, and when you're writing, that we are encouraged by thinking about doing this, and so the public can see that's our thinking, even though we're not gonna do it at this point, and maybe get in some support from the public. I don't know. Hopefully it'll happen if people read it.
I think they do.
Okay.
Okay. No other comments. We are at the end of our agenda other than committee reports. Who wants to start? Anybody?
Well, Virginia Fay ran into me at the SAP dinner, talking about this road, and she's
Okay.
talked to me about it earlier. And we met with Harvey this morning, and I brought it up to Harvey, so we knew about this coming. We didn't know she was gonna come here today, but,
Okay.
but I talked to Virginia, and Harvey and I and Dan, we talked about it, and we already decided we're gonna put some gravel on there. That was our discussion, and Harvey said that's what we can do. I said, there's not much you can do. And we've been waiting for a rain, we're not getting rains, and so he's gonna put some gravel. He said, I'll send some truck over there, put some gravel in there. And I told Virginia that right before the meeting,
Okay.
that we'd had a discussion, and that's what we're planning to do. It's not gonna be a real great solution, but a partial solution for her. And I know it's a problem. I mean, I drive that road, I know that it's a problem, and, I don't know what else we can do. Eventually that road will be great, but it's gonna take a couple of years. And so, and that's the only thing I have.
Okay.
And I haven't had any other committee meetings during the last 2 weeks. It's Christmas, you know, things are busy. But we did talk, and a good thing I brought it up with Harvey before she came to the meeting, and so we were prepared for it. And we came up with some kind of a solution for her. So that's it.
Daniel?
So this last week, the SIND board met, so discussed some of their projects there and approved some grants for different communities around in our district. Last week, attended the YCDC full board at the country club. It was good meeting, good discussion. Tomorrow is the YCDC Executive Board. And so we'll be discussing budget and most likely passing that budget. Along with that will be wage discussions, so it's always a fun time. One thing that was brought up when we were talking to Harvey this morning, there has been a increase in York County road ditches used as landfill. And there's been, the landfill prices did go up. Don't know if that's correlating, but the roads department is finding they're getting called out to pick up trash in the ditches a fair bit here recently. So just encourage people to use the proper places for disposing of their trash. Plan to go out to Kearney to NACO this week.
That it?
That's all I
Oh,
got.
boy.
I sat in on the tech meetings and the discussion that we went through today, so that's taken some time. I've had input from a call from a tall grass pipeline representative, just wanted to touch base and say this is gonna be good for the ethanol plants, is his perspective. And other input about the phone messaging system of people calling in and not being able to get to what they thought was the right area to make, so I've had a conversation with that department. And some of this phone thing, I hope will take care of some of that also. So when I call in, I can say, well, I want to know about weeds or lunch or whatever, I can get to the right places, which wasn't in place now. I shared with Harvey, somebody wanted to use our bridge for bumper cars or whatever, so they took out the railings, so they're working on getting that replaced. I attended a legislative 101 workshop just talking about how the bills happen, what's the Senate gonna be doing, how's that timeline look with this short session and how that all fits. That was an interesting conversation. And then Senator Kathleen Kauth, Kauth, was there and talked about sports and safe spaces. And so that was an interesting discussion and how that is it 575, LD 575 would be before the legislature this year, and just talk about men go to men's restrooms and dressing rooms and women go to women's, and that's the way it is done. And so that was good. I spent time researching and discussing the weeds program with Mitch. And so I have some ideas I'll share with you some more down the road. And I think that's probably it. And NACO tomorrow and the next day. So hasn't been planned.
Well, I did get a email from the Veteran Service Officer requesting some time off coming up. I checked with Cheryl. I did check with Cheryl this morning and she got notified too, so he's starting to pay attention to what he's supposed to be doing as far as getting that on the books. And I have a Visitors Bureau meeting on the 20th, and that's about it.
Okay. I did have my first Four Corners meeting last Monday night, and once again, they're just like the YCDC is their end of the year, their budget year. The construction project is moving forward and honing in on an exact dollar amount, but it's not going to be cheap up there. Almost seems like a guy could build something, but the facility is there, it's just getting totally redone. So we went through that and same thing with salaries. It was kind of a lengthy meeting, but it was doable. We did get a letter from CASA thanking us for our help with them, and of course they are within our courthouse walls here too. NACO is this week. It looks like there's quite a lineup of different things. Some of them look really interesting and some of them not so much, but to go and partake will be a good thing. There was forwarded to me from NACO this last week. I think we'll continue to see pressure on our inheritance tax. The governor had put out some statements in a press conference that he had, and so I did feel compelled at that point in time to write a letter to Governor Pillen, and I have not heard back, but the letter states that Governor Pillen is absolutely right when he states that our friends and neighbors that we elect to run our county governments are in favor of the funds that we derive from inheritance tax. I believe he is also right when he asks people, would they like the inheritance tax to go away? Their answer is typically yes. My question would be, where's the follow-up question? Is there a replacement for the revenue lost that we use, and I feel like we use very effectively? Because this is source of revenue to continue to insinuate that the counties are not fiscally responsible with the funds we collect is not an accurate statement. I do believe we have an opportunity to work with the state senators to figure property taxes out, but to blame it all on local levels is insulting and helps nothing. I do get the opportunity to explain, which we went through this last year with the Coast Guard. I do get the opportunity to explain and have rational conversations with those that question the fund and how we operate the money. And I would welcome that same opportunity to discuss this with the next level up. And sign that. I forwarded on to Mr. Cannon, and I will talk with John this weekend because all I got was kind of a thumbs up back from him. So I guess I take personally, and the governor doesn't explain, but he tends to attack all local entities with that rationale, that thinking, and that speaking. And it's like we have, I think, believe in this press conference, it was related to as our slush fund. And yes, we have a fund, but we don't have a huge amount of excess built into our budget to try to keep our budgets low. And we have things that come up. So I just feel like it's not being fairly represented, and the local entities are being attacked. And I guess it must have got under my skin a little bit that I wrote this back. And I did sign it as chairman of the board of York County Commissioners. And I would welcome those conversations like we just had with Ms. Hughes 2 weeks ago, with any of those down there. Yeah. Because anybody can ask a pointed question and get the answer they want.
Yeah.
But I think it's more than just one pointed question. So, just so you're aware that I did do that this last week. Do you have anything to add today?
No.
No? Getting ready for the end of the year? Hopefully. Anybody else have anything else? Dan?
Well, it's the tall grass thing, they haven't asked, do they have to have permission from the commissioners or anything?
We need to address certain things in our zoning that probably isn't addressed yet. I was hopeful that there would have been a zoning meeting by now on the other, and that has not happened. And I'm sure we're getting into the time of year where, as you stated before, Christmas season, because I was really hopeful that the commissioners would have it in front of them at the first of the year. But yes, there are things, anybody that was to come through, they have to go through the roads department on a haul route and different things like that. But we do not address certain pipeline issues that never did get touched when the XL pipeline come through. I mean, the zonings was talked about, but then that one little piece got dropped off. And so yes.
So tall grass is just going ahead, like there was no problem, they can do whatever they want to.
Contact them.
They are buying easements up to my knowledge, yes.
Talk to one.
And will they ever have to come and say anything to the York County?
It's not addressed in our zoning right now, no.
Antelope County had a week ago Monday night, had a public hearing on pipelines, particularly eminent domain, but also the benefit of methanol plants attached to our ethanol plants is a real source of funding rather than just pumping it to North Dakota or something.
Right.
And I can send that to you. I sent it to this gentleman yesterday when he said,
Yeah.
here's the options. And I said, well, here's other options,
Hmm.
and sent that to him.
Yeah, I saw the video.
Okay. So, yeah, we have to be aware of what's going on. And then I had other input asking about another solar field like in Garfield County and stuff, and so what's happening there. The zoning and planning is a big deal across the state. You can't just assume it's gonna handle it, and like I said, for lack of a plan on our part, people are just gonna do their thing. So we've gotta be out there and do something. Pipelines, I don't understand why they don't just go down public right away and make a right turn to wherever they're going, and then they skip all the easement kind of issues that are
I
there.
agree. Absolutely.
And John, can't pronounce his name, Hadcut, anyway, he was talking about they'd done a 14-mile piece over in Hastings that had 100% citizen buy-in because of the way they were composing it and bringing it on board. So I think he's anticipating a similar kind of response here. But we don't have a plan. So it is a planning and zoning commission issue.
First. Anything else?
I'd just like to make one little comment. Has anybody watched any of the federal talk about anti-Semitism in the colleges and everything? There were some questions, very pointed questions asked to some of the most prestigious colleges in this country. And I'm ashamed of those people that can't come out and say that genocide is wrong, period. I mean, I know lawyers like to talk in circles, but those three ladies that were up there couldn't answer one simple question. And if you forget about the Holocaust, it'll happen again.
And one of those three ladies is no longer head of the.
No, she's no longer the head, but she's still employed with them as a tenured professor. So that's just a little bitty slap on the hand.
Yep.
You got somebody from one of the most prestigious colleges in the world that couldn't answer that question at all. And I think they all ought to be fired.
Well, there's representatives in the legislature, national legislature, that can't answer the same kind of questions and won't.
Yeah, I agree. This country's heading right back to World War II.
Are we good?